Hey guys, Teesum here, Challenger support on the North American server, here to give you the top 5 mistakes that supports make. Number 1. Not using auto attacks. Not using auto attacks is one of the biggest mistakes that newer supports don't do. Is they don't realize that the damage of early auto attacks is equivalent to maybe 75% damage of their skill. So a lot of newer supports will just rely generally only on their spells to deal damage, but they don't realize that the auto attacks are even more important because there's no cooldown on auto attack. So early on, for the first few levels, what you want to do is either be autoing the wave or autoing champions. Because early on, you want to realize that you want to push for the level 2 advantage. So you want to be constantly autoing for the first few levels. You want to always be hitting the wave or zoning the enemy off. Pushing the wave early on gives you priority and level 2 advantage. Pushing for level 2 advantage will give you access to 2 skills compared to your opponent's 1 when they're still level 1. Also, this gives you access to walk into the river and contest the crab to help your jungler. So one of the combos you want to implement with auto attacks is every time you cast a spell, try to get auto attack in. So you try to weave your auto attacks in. So you auto, cast your spell, auto. Or you can cast your spell auto and then back up. There's a whole bunch of different combos, but make sure every time you use your spells, you're trying to get an auto in with it. Because it's just free extra damage that essentially you're missing out on. The number 2 mistake is not understanding the win condition of your lane. So what I see happen a lot in lower elos is that players will pick defensive champions and play them aggressive. Like Janna, for example. They'll pick Janna and they'll try to fight the enemy. They'll be in the front, fighting them really hard. Whereas Janna's a defensive champion. She's not meant to deal damage. She's meant to protect the AD carry. So what I recommend is going back to the guide with the categories and understanding what your role is. So in champions like engagers are supposed to be in the front. They're always supposed to be the ones starting the fight. They're usually generally tanks with ranged engage tools like Thrush Hook, Blitzcrank Hook, Pike Q, Leona E, things like that. The number 3 mistake that I see players make are placing ineffective wards or just dropping wards for the sake of it. We'll go over this in a later guide where the most effective wards to drop are, but in this guide, we're going to talk about where not to place your wards. So sometimes you're going to place a ward in the river. That one ward will already cover that area of the river. You don't need to place another ward in that area just because there's another brush. That one ward should be effective enough and give you enough time to see the enemy jungler or any other roams. You want to save those wards later on so you can extend your laning phase. You don't want to overlap your wards in the same area. You want to just drop them one by one. One tip I want to give to early on is that you always want to save your early wards up to 5 minutes. Your wards up to 5 minutes, your trinkets. You want to save them for the river. You don't want to use them in the lane brush because early on is the most likely time your jungler is going to gank you. So around 3 minutes to 4 minutes. So generally, you and your AD carry want to make sure you're always covering the river with your wards. We'll go over how to control the brush later on in a different guide. The number 4 most common mistake I see is brush control. This is slightly related to the first one, the first tip, the auto attack one, because this is a way you can use your auto attacks more effectively is with the brush control. So what you want to do early on is, especially if you're a ranged support, is auto attack the enemy. And when you get the minion aggro, walk back into the brush to reset it. And you can repeat this over and over as long as the brush does not have a ward in it. One of the other tips about brush control is use the brush as like fog. It's essentially mini fog in the lane. What you want to do sometimes is just walk in the brush and just sit there. You don't even have to use your skills, but the pressure of just being in the brush will threaten the enemy. Sometimes if they don't have a ward to use in the brush, then you can just sit in the brush forever and they have to respect you. Otherwise, you're able to more easily shoot your skill shots at them. The 5th and last mistake I see supports make are spamming their spells on cooldown. So on champions like Morgana and Blitzcrank, you want to try to hold your spells until you have a higher chance to hit them. Sometimes it's very threatening just to walk forward with the spell. Generally the enemy will just have to respect you. Getting hit by a binding or a hook early on can lead to a kill. So what you want to do is you want to look for the higher percentage skill shots. So different timings are like when the enemy is last hitting. So when they're about to hit a minion, they have to stop in place to auto attack. So that's your chance to hit them. So you want to look for those timings where the minion's about to die, then you shoot your skill shot at that timing. The other timing is when they're next to the wall or next to the tower. Because when you're next to the wall or tower, you can only dodge one direction. You can't dodge into the wall because you can't move through the wall. The only other direction you can go is away from the wall. So if you generally shoot your skill shot right next to the wall, parallel to the wall, you'll generally catch the enemy. The third way to increase your skill shot accuracy is to hit the enemy when they're slowed. So a lot of the AD carries have a slowing effect or a CC effect. So like Ash's auto attacks slow, or even Callista, like Callista's Ren will slow. Obviously, there's things like Caitlyn Trap, which is a hard CC where they just can't move. Those are the times you want to look for the skill shots. Rather than just throwing them out on cooldown with a very low percentage chance, it's better to just hold it, threaten the enemy, and then when you have a higher percentage skill shot, like one I listed, then that's when you go for it. Just in conclusion, just remember guys, I see players from Iron to even Diamond making these mistakes. So don't worry about trying to add them all at the same time. You should just try to work on one at a time and you'll see a huge improvement.